Hey, folks, and welcome to the Deconstructor of Fun podcast. I'm your host, Mishka Katkoff, and in this episode, I'm joined by Sergei Vasiuk. Sergei is LiveOps Director at Wargaming, and he recently released his first book called Running a Successful Live Service Game. It's a fantastic book with a lot of very practical insights in how to develop live operations at your studio. And in this episode, we're going to talk about this book, but also about the concepts presented in this book in a very hopefully practical way, with giving a lot of examples from Wargaming and other companies. Now, I think this episode is very relevant because live operations is more important now than it has ever been, and live operations have been, quite important even before this date. Now, the reason being is the market, as we very well known, is very matured. When we're looking at PC or mobile, we're essentially talking about games that are over 5 years that are dominating the market, making about 70% of all the revenues in the market. So in this episode, we talk about the evolution of the gaming models going from paid to live service to games as a platform. We talk about things like transitioning from traditional game development to live operations model. We talked about data-driven development, player-centric design and retention, monetization without sacrificing player experience, the importance of community engagement, challenges of global operations, and a little bit about the future of live service games. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you consider getting this book for your studio. I think it offers a very good mental model, because oftentimes in live operations, you're trying to solve something really big. Like, how do we get our attention to this? How do we get monetization to that? And in this book, it actually gives you a very concrete step-by-step processes and almost like mental models on how to solve bigger problems, breaking them down in smaller ones and executing against each individual rather than tackling big problem at once. But yes, fascinating episode. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. And if you do enjoy, I have one small ask for you, and that is subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to whatever channel you are using to get this content from. We got a lot of great content coming in your way. And the thing is, the bigger the audience, the bigger the guest. Really hope you enjoy the episode. So without further ado, Sergei Vasiuk and running a successful live service.
Kick-ass live ops need kick-ass tools. That's where Heroic Labs comes in. They just released a massive update to their Satori LiveOps platform. And having done my research, I can say with confidence that it's second to none. In a single product, you get everything you need, including event capture, player segmentation, feature flags, remote configuration, A/B testing, experimentation, live events calendar, messaging, retention graphing, analytics, and so much more. If you're serious about running live services in a game, get serious about the tools you use. Connect with Heroic Labs and make some serious cheese with your live ops.
Sergei Vasiuk, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mishka.
Good morning. So a little bit about Sergei, about you. So you're first and foremost, you're a first-time author of a book, Running a Successful Live Service Game. So thank you for sending the copy in advance, and congratulations on being published author.
Thank you very much. It was quite a journey for me. Literally, it took almost 4 years. If considering the day when I decided, okay, let's just put my thoughts into more structured way.
Wow.
So and then it ended up with the small videos internally, and then LiveOps course for our Wargaming Force, like kind of internal university, and then I transform into the entire book.
God, yeah. So we're going to talk about, this podcast is going to be purely about the book, but just for the audience to know, you're also a live operations director at Wargaming, working on the World of Tanks franchise, and you've been at Wargaming for dozens of years, 12 years, probably like from the early days of the company.
Yes, 12 years. On the November the 1st, 2024 is going to be 12 years when I joined Wargaming. I joined it when the whole team was in one building, like only 2, 3, 4 floors, no more than 300 peoples. And right now we are like almost 3,500.
Damn.
So more than 10 times more.
Yeah. Yeah, the company's massive and a lot of different games in the same sphere of war. And then other important information about you, of course, you're a LinkedIn top voice, so that's that's an important achievement. And if people
Yes.
are not following you on LinkedIn, you have actually a really high production value videos that you share on very work related stuff. And I did not know the fourth thing about you, that this is your first podcast, because looking at the videos that you've shared on LinkedIn, I was sure that you produce a lot of high quality content, and I just realized that this is your first podcast. So welcome on the first of that as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean that's true. I have a small trick for my videos for LinkedIn, because I just utilize the course that we have produced internally. But technically, yeah, this is the first big podcast for me, because all internal streams do not count.
Yeah, well, it's a big company. I'll let you on a last tidbit about like me and wargaming before we continue. It's when this podcast was starting, and I was like, we're just playing around with like it would be really cool to get ads, and I asked wargaming, can I do ads for you for free? Just to kind of, because I really like playing World of Warships, and I was like, hey, can I just produce ads and talk about, because you were hiring a lot at that point, you're building the mobile division, and I was like, hey, let me just do ads for free. You don't have to pay it, and we'll get sort of like a benchmark client. And technically, Wargaming was our first advertiser, although you did not pay for that. But anyways.
So see, I mean, there are so many the first occasion today.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, enough of that, and let's talk about your book. So I have like, I went through it. It's a fantastic book on live operations, and live operations probably has never been as important as it is today. As companies are launching less games and focusing more on sustaining their franchises. So I crafted kind of like a 10 different questions about the book. So let's just
Right.
start going through them. They're a little bit of a high level, but I wanted them to be high level so we can, dive into the conversation. And the first one is, in the book, you describe this interesting shift. So the first shift is from a game as a product to games as a service. And of course, everybody listening to this understand that's perfectly. But
Right.
then you describe the third shift, which is from games as a service to game as a platform. So can you elaborate how, especially the last two stages have impacted the game development, the game operation, especially when looking at live services, so game as a platform?
Right. I mean, I just want to start with this small disclaimer, because in the sake of clarity, I will be an advocate of live service games today, especially since I've been working only with the free-to-play games on PC, console, and mobile for the last 12 years. And back to your question about this shift, I always use the following framework. So the shift happens whether one of the three key areas it evolves: technology, content, or distribution. So a bit of the history. So game as a product, when CD-ROMs came along, games could hold more data, which means they could be bigger, look better, and tell richer story. So this was the era of the physical media, game sold in box. So for developers, the focus was on creating a polished game, release it, and then move on to the next title. For operations, it was all about getting these games into the stores and into players' hand. Then, with the internet, everything changed. Games didn't need to be sold physically anymore. They could be updated online. So developers could keep adding new content, and operations started focusing on engaging players to the for the long term and monetize them through battle passes or microtransactions. So the technology allowed to shift from one-time product to something that could live on and evolve over time. And then another one technology popped up, live streaming, which changed everything again. Twitch and YouTube have turned games into a new genre of entertainment content. Now games are platforms. Players can not only consume content, but also create it. Developers focus on not just making the game, but also supporting UGC. Distribution is instant, and the content is constantly refreshed. So not by only developers, but also by community. And for marketing operations, it also changed the way how we work. Now we are trying more to build relationships with influencers and bridging the connection between creators, and even give them revenue share programs or like engagement events like Battle of Bloggers. So this shift has turned games into ecosystem where players can play, create, watch, and connect.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, that makes total sense. But what are the ways for companies like because Wargaming or World of Tanks did not design this from the get-go. Yes, you designed a game as a free-to-play game with updates from the get-go, but you didn't design platform because there was no Twitch when you started. There probably was no YouTube when you started.
Yes, correct.
How do you make this switch from a live service game to a platform? Yeah, like what are the steps? Is it intentional? It's like, what do you have to do from the game teams?
The reality is that I described it in the book. In the book is the like my personal outlook for the foreseeable future. In wargaming, we're still in the early stage of this. I wouldn't even say transformation, but like thinking about it. Yes, we use a lot of influencer management, and big part of our new MAU structure and the players come from our interactions with the streamers and influencers and the content creators. But we are not still in the same stage of maturity as, let's say, Roblox, Minecraft, or Fortnite, because literally, especially for Fortnite, they changed their strategy completely. And during the last GDC, Epic announced that they paid 320 millions to creators.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, with their Unreal Engine for Fortnite, they changed their way of operating live service game and shift content production more toward external content creators, or even small dedicated studios, which everybody read this a lot of news that like every week or every month a new studio start their operations as a game maker for Epic. So in Wargaming, we still at the beginning of this journey. Yes, for in World of Tanks we have modes. We give our players an ability to create their modes and twinkle in a bit World of Tanks, but still we have a long way in front of us.
Yeah, it's interesting case with World of Tanks or even wargaming games. Like, I mean, most of your games, barring Master of Orion, they're very much tied to the historical facts and trying to be as authentic as possible.
Correct.
And so the
That
leeway,
is why we even have a
yeah,
option in the client where you can just switch off all not historically related content.
yeah, exactly. So the sort of a leeway to go to a fully user generated content. I mean, you do all kinds of like funny events and all type of stuff that are quite sci-fi or imaginatory, but nevertheless it's very tied into the historical fact. So it feels like that's even a more of a challenge to make it into a fully user generated because of the constraints that the setting sets. So that's why I'm kind of asking like how you're thinking. But I've watched your streams like every time, because it's those games are so complicated and so um, competitive. You're incentivized to go online and see how to play best against different tiers. And like now I'm tier 6, now I'm tier 7. What should I be doing with the Japanese tanks, with the American tanks, with the Soviet tanks, and so forth? So it is like that part, I think, is very much helpful for the platform creation, because it's competitive, because it's complicated, and you want more information. You want to find a ways to win, and that's when you go online. And so that probably kind of helps.
Yes, and actually, this is one of the reason why we had this transformation from game as a product to game as a service, is because I have like four my personal four C's for why successful live service games actually succeed. The number one is social, because players want to play with friends. Another one, like you said, skill. Players want to master the game and be able to dominate, which gives you the third C, status, because
Mm-hmm.
players want to gain a rank. And all of these three C's leads you to the sunk cost. When you spend so much time, emotions, and money, you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
So, and then this is the reason why we see last year the New Zoo, they released their research that for PC games the
Mm-hmm.
average year on the market is around 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. That they actually, funny enough, I have it open here. According to Newzoo, like when you look at the top 10 biggest games in terms of MAU, the only new ones are the latest iteration of FIFA, or Counter Strike 2, but pretty much everything else is like Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, Call of Fortnite, the latest Call of Duty, but then it's Roblox, Rocket League, Counter Strike, Sims, Apex Legends. So the games that have been launched for at least 5 years ago are still on the top of MAU, and that kind of
Right.
creates a difficult setting for new games to enter.
That's true.
This podcast is brought to you by AppsFlyer. In today's digital world, understanding your app's journey from discovery to download is more than just insightful, it's essential. Enter AppsFlyer, the leader in mobile attribution and marketing analytics that allows you to measure the full potential of your marketing efforts, making every ad dollar work smarter. With AppsFlyer, that's your new reality. Dive deep into data-driven insights that reveal exactly where your users come from and how they interact with your app. AppsFlyer, where your app's potential meets performance.
Yeah. Well, listen, 'cause I have many questions. But that was interesting, kind of like from the live service to platform. What you mean by that? That makes total sense. But how about like transitioning? So since you worked at Wargaming for entirety of your career, so you kind of never had to transition from traditional game development to the live operations. I'm sure the live operations has tremendously evolved and looks totally different today than it looked back in the days. But nevertheless, that we've seen, especially during the peak COVID years when the traditional big publishers were investing heavily into games as a service and making
Right.
that
Right.
that incredibly expensive transition from their typical box products to what they ended up usually going is either full games as a service or a paid game with microtransactions followed through it. Like, what advice would you give to these type of developers that are making this type of a shift when the studio has previously known for top tier box products, and now they're turning their franchise to a live service one?
Right. Look, uh, when you said that my entire career was with Wargaming, which is true. I remember that when World of Tanks was released in 2010, we probably was the pioneer of free-to-play games. And fortunately or unfortunately for us, we started creating all of these tool sets. I remember I joined web department, which was responsible for developing all of this tool set. We even didn't call it platform. The word LiveOps appeared only in 2016, 17. So we started even before this word even existed. So, but you're right. I've been working only with the live service game entire career, so I can give like the in my book I have like a seven points or guiding principles, how I call them, that help that help students not only to go from box products to live service game, but also if you want to start a studio which will develop a live service game. There are 7 of them. So, and the first one is that live service game never really ends. It's always involving. It's mentally tough. And I've seen so many brilliant folks join Wargaming who were not ready for the constant content production treadmill and ended up quitting. So that's why number 1 guiding principles is live service game evolves continuously. So you have to embrace change and stay agile because players' engagement won't always follow your intended design. Number 2, flexibility in game system designs. Make sure your system let the LiveOps team and other operational teams and even internal development teams make changes easily, like adding events or updating your storefront without needing devs to jump in constantly. So number 3 is commitment beyond launch. The real work begins after launch. Keep creating content to keep player engaged. So devs and ops need to work closely together here. Number 4, of course, data. Let's player data guide you. You won't get it right from at first, for sure. But keep an eye on both feedback and the hard number to improve decision making. Number 5, revenue follows engagement. So if players are having fun, your first time user experience is smooth, the meta game adds depth, and your progression system keeps players coming back, the money will follow. And number 6 is one of my favorite because quality perception is subjective. What one group of players love, another might hate. So you can't please everyone. So focus on decisions that push the business and your game forward. And number 7, which is very, related today, is manage costs smartly because LiveOps is ongoing. So optimize your content pipeline and keeping costs in check. So again, in the end, in LiveOps and live service games, it's all about the long game, not marathon. So the marathon, not the sprint. So keep evolving and keep players engaged, and you will do great.
Yeah, it's a lot easier said than done. It's like I think the few points that you raised, like commitment beyond launch, being data driven, and keeping costs in check, that has the combination of that, in my opinion, has proven to be the most difficult hurdle to the traditional box product developers. What I mean by that is like you create a certain type of a DNA when you are used to launching these big games once in 3 to 5 years and cashing in hundreds of millions at a launch. And that DNA is, hey, let's push really fucking hard. Let's create an incredible narrative, really push the boundaries of the hardware, deliver something, get the Metascore up really, really high, and get the initial sales incredibly high, and then ride that long tail to profitability and the checks and the bonuses. And so that type of approach, when you change it the other way around, is very difficult. We've seen a lot of these publishers basically cut their live service games at the moment when they enter the market because they're not seeing incredible return day one. And they're like, oh my God, this is a piece of shit. We need to cut it. It's a turd. This is done. We've seen games being cut in soft launch. We've seen games being cut right after the launch where they've spent so much money before launching the game, thinking that the launch is gonna, or banking on it, that the launch is gonna bring in the massive amounts of money back. Even when you look at the games like Fortnite that really started making money years and years after the game had been launched, they finally found their
Right,
stride.
right.
It's somehow they still very much live because the whole organization is built around that type of a process, that type of a planning, the marketing team, the finance team, everything is built around projecting the revenue from the launch and then going forward. So I think that's a big part. And the other one is like being data driven. A lot of these publishers are, in my opinion, are very sensitive to any kind of negative feedback from the players. Incredibly sensitive, and sensitive to a point. Like, of course, you need to listen to your player base, but they are sensitive to a point where they can't really filter of what's the magnitude of the problem. Few bad feedbacks. Like, I even had it early days in Rovio, like we would have few bad feedbacks on like an app store page, and people would freak out and panic that this is horrible. And you're like, guys, we had like hundreds of thousands of messages and reviews, and you're looking at 10. Like, let's have like some kind of a perspective. And that's the other part of like being very data driven, is understanding different data sources, putting things into perspective, and
Right.
and approaching everything in a very measured way. And I feel like all those elements, like the commitment beyond the launch, being data driven, and keeping costs at check, both during the development and especially during the launch, not post launch phase, the live service, live operations phase. Without that, like it's the DNA that only companies that have been operating in free to play have, and others really can't copy, even if they read this book. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true. I like your analogy with DNA, because literally, and I don't want to say that it's easy. I've been working for 12 years, and World of Tanks will turn 15 next year. And the core of the development team and the operations team also with us for 10 plus years. It's another mindset. So we always at the age of chasing our players in a way to please them. So, and as I said, literally, it's mentally very hard. Because our roadmap, it's not like a 3-4 years roadmap to release one box game, have a big party, celebrate success. No, everybody's scared to release day, because this is only the beginning of
Hmm.
this marathon for the next, I don't know, 12, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's really fascinating. I've been following and kind of like working with both type of companies. Even now, it's. Do you think the other way around would be easier? Like, let's say Wargaming would release a box product, this narrative game by this female protagonist who joins the Second World War, and she becomes a tank commander in the biggest battles, and you kind of go through with her. Like, would that be possible? Like, would you fail
And
at that? Or would you just release too early and be like, you know what, we'll just update it in the next one and we'll figure it out, and we'll listen to the community. But like, are you able to launch a perfection, or is it more like you launch and figure out?
yeah, the very very interesting idea, and believe me, there were so many conversations about box games in wargaming. But again, back to the point about transition to game as a platform. So in World of Tanks, we already have these box games, because we have big events for Halloween, or for a so-called Waffentrager, or we have a collaboration with Star Trek. So it's literally like a small box game inside the game. So it's event for 2 weeks with a pretty clear narrative. So you have to follow the path, progress through the progression system, we already started adding a lot of narrative to this. So literally, technically, we already released a lot of box games inside World of Tanks, and I believe, this is the future for the LiveOps service. So I mean, Fortnite, literally, it will be like a app store for the small games, for the small Fortnite games or small islands inside Fortnite in the future.
Yeah, yeah, that's their vision for sure. They're pretty far away from that vision in practice, but I've talked to a few UFN developers, so it takes a little bit more than a vision to get the other
I
platform
mean, look,
working.
300 plus million sounds very fascinating.
Yeah. Well, hope it evolves to be much larger than what it is right now. Kind of switching back to your book, you wrote about live ops in modern gaming, and I'm going to quote you. You said, "By creating a connection with the game and fostering a strong community, more players are motivated to participate in the in-game economy." So you definitely emphasize the importance of live ops and maintaining player engagement and generating revenue. But how do you see the role of live ops, or do you call it live ops or live services? Which one do you call it actually?
Internally, we call it LiveOps.
Yeah, okay. The role of live ops like evolving over the next few years, particularly with what you said, the rise of user generated content and this community driven game ecosystem. So what's the evolution that you're seeing?
Yeah, I like word people. I will elaborate a bit. So the internet has always thrived on the content content made by everyday people. So with the platform like Wikipedia showing how powerful group contributions can be, LiveOps is evolving, and I see the future of it as we call it people's LiveOps, where the community has way more control over the game's direction. So, as I said, we already see this with the games like Minecraft, Roblox, or Fortnite, where players are not just consuming content; they are creating it. So, in the next few years, studios will need to fully embrace this, collaborating with creators and even sharing revenue to keep their games evolving through community-driven system. And it's all about attention, and to keep players' attention, we need to create interesting content. And the modern way involves engaging dedicated fans and give them opportunity to earn a living through their passion. Uh, as you said, that the future of gaming lies in serving as a bridge between creators and players. So, in my book, I call it attention ecosystem because it opens the door to creating value from the attention that creators generate for their audience. There are three main groups in these ecosystems: players, games, and creators. And you ask me, how do I see the role of live ops? And the answer that live ops should facilitate this interaction. And there are three key factors play a role in the growth of this attention focus ecosystem. Factor number one, time, because this is the most valuable thing a players can spend. In return, this attention ecosystem should propose rewards or even meaning that builds virtual identity. And factor number two, loyalty. And this is the most valuable thing that a creator can provide. In return, the ecosystem should offer a wide variety of experiences powered by creator who earn a living by bringing them to life. And number three, the audience, and because this is the most valuable thing a game can have. And in return, the ecosystem should facilitate attention around their players via professional gaming community, including content creators.
This is interesting, and in practice, like I was thinking about when you were talking about this, like 12 years ago, like in 2013 on Clash of Clans team. So in the earliest days of live ops and mobile, I remember the updates were there were like three three elements of like what the update has to hit, And in the beginning of a sprint, which was about a 1 month at that point, it was like, okay, so what are we doing for revenue? And you would put in like, some new piece of this, new piece of that, or maybe a new unit or something, and we know that it will drive revenue. What are you doing for retention? And there might have been some kind of a fix, something that is bothering the people, or added content maybe towards the end, but that's usually a retention piece. And then the third part, even back then, was what are we doing for the community? And that was like it could have been a very small piece with like additions of different flags or something, but it was that information came from the community manager, and it was a lot. And then later on, through the interviews with the most engaged guilds and so forth, so something that was always catering specifically to the need of the most engaged players, who are in many ways an opinion leaders. And this was 12 years ago. So I can only imagine how much it has evolved since those early points. And so in practice, like, how do you cater to the UGC part, to the community part? Like, how do you structure your live ops?
I would say that we have a couple of directions or categories of user-generated content. So the number one is obviously our main content creators who are streaming on Twitch. So because this is the most recognizable players with a very broad exposure on the platform. So, and we have a lot. We even have a dedicated team, which day by day collaborate with the guys. So we are, and the main goal for this team is to find this balance between what is good for creators and what is good for the game. So for us, as for the game developers, the main focus should be on entertaining our players, give them more content outside of World of Tanks, because literally we are fighting for the 2 hours per day, because there are only 24 hours at all. So we have 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours for work, family, blah, blah, blah. So we literally have 2 hours. And there are so many competitors here. YouTube, Netflix. So gaming is on literally in the red ocean. So for us, it's very important that our players have a opportunity to be within the World of Tanks university while they are outside of game client. So that is why this content for us is very, very important. We support our creators not only with the drops, which gives more incentives to our players to watch their streams, but we also listen to them. So twice per year, we even have offline community gathering events. The previous one was in the Bonington Museum, Tank Museum in the UK, when we celebrated the 18th anniversary of Normandy landing. Huge event. I mean, literally huge. We even donated 20K to restore the unique British anti-tank vehicle. And we also gather our content creators and share with them the plans for the roadmap of 2025, and gather feedback and understand what they want to see, what they do not want to see. So, and another one was during the recent TwitchCon in the US. So it's literally like building relationship with the people management. So this is one thing. Another one thing is in World of Tanks we have a mode portal. So when we support creators who are literally developers who create these modes, and even in collaboration with other big streamers, especially before in CIS, they had a lot of internal events without any support from the development team. I mean, the World of Tanks development team, who just these creators helps other streamers to organize their internal events for their audience. So this is another one thing. And yes, we're always trying to find a way how to incentivize flesh blood join this party. Yeah, I would say that these are the three main directions.
Got it. Well, that's a lot more work than back in the day. So definitely tying into the real live events and keeping the game relevant as well as connected with the community. The other interesting part, so kind of jumping into the question 4, is about being data driven in development.
Step into the future of game monetization with Xsolla, the premier partner for game developers seeking to expand their reach and revenue. Xsolla provides a robust suite of tools designed to enhance user acquisition, manage subscriptions, and streamline payment solutions worldwide. Unlock new markets and maximize profitability through their customized, secure payment architecture and dedicated support team. Xsolla, powering game developers to achieve global success.
This is something that you mentioned already with what the traditional publishers perhaps have challenges with, is being data driven. And I'm going to quote you. You wrote in your book saying, "LiveOps is a practice of introducing frequent and data-driven events to players without involvement of the game development team, aiming to maximize player lifetime value." So this is an interesting definition of LiveOps, because quite often, like I've heard both LiveOps and live service being used. With LiveOps is something small you do on the server side, something that the product community team can do, basically with the help of perhaps an artist or two with some custom images, but you can use your central tool set to drive those changes. Basically create an event where, everybody has one health point, for example, and now you have a one shot, one kill event that is running for this weekend, and you essentially created a new type of gameplay, and you can quickly from your central tool set also give specific prizes, and by adding custom images, you can promote it through social media with the community, et cetera, and that's quite easy for you to run without any help of the developers, and then kind of leaving them to work on the upcoming bigger features. So going back on that, like data analytics play a big role in your approach in LiveOps. Right. Could you help to discuss like could you basically discuss on how it shapes the decision making in game operation, and how it helps you to predict player behavior and enhance retention and monetization? Basically, like, how do you use data in a strategic way?
This is very, very, very complex question.
Yeah, I know.
What I like in your question is that you put very, very good emphasis on the word of decision making, because look, in 2024, you won't surprise anybody on the planet Earth, and especially in the gaming industry, that data is lifeblood of game development or live ops, and there are so many platforms that already help you to collect data and then work with this. That's why let me talk here about the key point of your question about decision making, because it's not just 0-1, it's a framework. And then live service game, constant optimization is the key. And that data help us stay on track. And in my book, I outline 3 parts of this framework. The first one, obviously, ask why before you start. So every time when you launch an event or feature or releasing new content, we ask, why are we doing this? So this helps to set the clear goals and challenge assumptions. Then check, did it work? So when you finished with the event, or the time pass for your new content, in our case, let's say, I don't know, new tanks 3. So did it hit our goal? If not, we learn from it and adjust. And again, it's back to your point at the beginning. Every time we are not like, if we do not see the result that we expected, it doesn't mean that we should throw it away and do not repurpose, and think how can we make it better in the future. And my favorite saying here, and this is kind of another one, guiding principles: torture the data and it will confess to everything. So when data is complex, it can be misused to please shareholders or stakeholders or whatever.
Yes.
And that is why it's so important to have peer review. So getting another analyst to validate the methods or findings is a key to keep decision making honest. But let me give you one example. So, and back to your point about predicting player behavior and the role of LiveOps. While predictive analytics is fascinating, we will leave it aside for the sake of simplicity of this discussion. It's crucial to view it in combination with the business objectives, offers, and the tool sets. Let's take churn prediction as an example. So an analyst might do a fascinating job, accurately identifying which players are expected to leave, let's say, in 2 weeks. However, that's only half the job of churn prevention. For it to be effective, the LiveOps team needs to create multiple offers addressing various assumptions or reasons for churn, work with localization, QA, implementation, execute this campaign, then run analysis on the experiments only to find out that in the good case, we've managed to retain just a small proportion of players. So if the organization is not prepared for experimentation at the scale, it's drive us back to the live service game mentality. Predictive analytics won't be able to achieve its full potential.
It's this is an interesting point with the data. It's like people sometimes I've felt that the companies that the data was put in on some sort of a pedestal, that every answer can be found through this vast data pool that we have here. If only you can understand these encrypted messages and these numbers and make decisions through them. And only the true wizards are those who can understand, the data scientists, as they've been called. And then there's nothing wrong, but the way I've personally, I'm curious what do you think about this, but the way I personally thought about it is when we're talking about data and decision making, there are three very important sources of data. And one is something that we're discussing now, which is the analytics. It's what's happening in the game. It's all the predictions, all the analysis. It's what it's the mirror of the actions, and that can be broken down and analyzed in 100 million different ways through never-ending A/B tests, and that's all good. But then there's other two. So one that we've discussed is the that feedback that you get from the community, which also affects significantly your decision making. That sometimes is visible in the actual analytics, but sometimes isn't, because it's a qualitative data, and it could be signals of something that is happening in the future. It could be
Right.
It could be signals that something that you need to move towards or investigate, or signals that you shouldn't be doing. And then the third piece, which is very important, and we always emphasize it in the beginning and tend to not talk about it towards later phases, is the variable, which is your team's gut feeling. How good of a developers, how good of an experts they are in what they are doing, how well they understand the market, their competitive products, and their own product. And oftentimes, like the combination of these three data sources, community, analytics, and the team's gut feeling as experts in what they're doing, result in the best possible live services throughout the time. What do you think?
Totally agree, and I even call it, the phase of maturity of any organization, and at some point it can be on the over data driven mentality. So I joined Wargaming when we even didn't have any data stores in place. Everything was in the spreadsheets. And then slowly we got to the point when we collect all data, create all of these dashboards, visualized the data, and it looked perfect. And yeah, we started thinking, all right, now we have all data possible, and we can drive our products and the campaigns and the live ops into the right direction. But this is literally like never ending rat race, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, it will be a point when, if you want to sell any idea that you feel, I mean, my gut feelings or my team feelings, or I mean, I read it on Reddit or saw it on during the Twitch stream, I have to prove with data that it will bring some value. But how can I do this if it's a new idea?
Yeah.
And when you have like 10 ideas with the analytically proven data and 10 with the gut feelings, I mean, we were at the point when the competition was 10-0. So and then we decided, even in my team, I mean, in my team I have a dedicated LiveOps analytics team, which right now fully allocated not to like historically reporting, but find a way. They drive our personalized offering system and the recommendation system, and the way how we help our players navigate through the game. So I ask them, look, there is data, you can find whatever you want, but if you feel that this particular experiment will bring, in the best case scenario, good result, but in the good case scenario, provoke us to think about any other directions, it's also good. So take
Mm-hmm.
this, I don't know, 10K players, and check your idea. You don't need to bring me justification of data. So yeah, you're right. And again, this is all about the decision making and the mindset. Data is good, but if you over data driven, you will end up with the very, very slow pace of innovation. And we are all smart people. I can
Yeah.
I can justify any my ideas with data, again, by squeezing them. But what the point? So completely agree. If you do not add these gut feelings or community feedback to your very binary data results, it won't work.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of studios like there was this sort of a, I worked at Zynga, and Zynga was sort of a spearheading this very data driven approach. That was, of course, coming from back from the Facebook days of Java games and the times where you were really fast at iterating, and everything was A/B tested. There were so many A/B tests running at the same time, and every PM, if you would ask them, could say, well, this one increases this by 14%, and this one increases by 28%, and all, everything was measured. But nevertheless, like, I'm curious to hear what you think about A/B tests overall. What I noticed, and from my own experience as well, like most of the A/B tests didn't result in the same type of results. When you first A/B test, you prove that A is X amount times better, or X amount of percentages better than B. And then when you put it actually in the game, you're like, okay, so where's the uplift? Like, this was supposed to be 28% better, 32% better, and there's practically no uplift when you integrate. I've had A/B tests that were significant and had significant improvement, but they were, they were quite game changing. Like in one of the games, we A/B tested whether we should have Fog of War or not, so that quite significantly changed the gameplay, and that had an effect in the long-term retention as hypothesized. But most of these sort of smaller tests never kind of really came back with anything better. Even I'll give you one more, like longitudinal A/B tests, where we tested throughout years of whether sales actually increased the revenue of a game or not. This has happened in at least two different companies that I work with. In both of these companies, it was proven through A/B tests that sales do not increase the overall revenue of the game. They simply change the purchasing patterns. So people pay at different stages more and less on the next week. Nevertheless, both of these organizations continue to run sales despite having proven that sales do not change the overall revenue of the game. So what's your take on A/B tests?
You mentioned very good point that's when you have a lot of data, you want to A/B test everything, and it's bring you to the point. At least it was our case. I mean, World of Tanks has a huge audience, mainly in EU, North America, China, and Asia. But if you run a lot of A/B tests, and the essence of A/B tests is to compare A and B, and you have to have control group. Yeah. Otherwise, how can you compare all of this stuff? And we realized at one day, even with the amount of players that World of Tanks has, that we cannot launch more A/B tests, because literally we ate all the audience, and all of them was in the control groups cooldown buckets. So that's why we are using A/B test, especially when we have some hypothesis. Let's say, I don't know, we see that this is a good trigger to send the offer. Let's say, I don't know, if a player level up some specific tank, and we have 3D styles to offer. But nobody knows where these 3D styles are in the client. So this good trigger to make an offer, and there are a lot of such a stuff. So we run some A/B tests, and if we see that for this 10-20K cohort, there is a statistically significant result. I mean, the target group is better than the control group. We just put it into the bucket of all our campaigns. And there is one big methodology which measure the output of any personalized offers or campaigns. And if you take a look on the dynamic during the year, there is spikes. Even sometimes it spikes when we have a big sale for the overall cluster. Then, as you mentioned, yes, if we oversaturate our players with the content, with the sales, the next months it's less, 50%, 100%, whatever, than the previous months. But it doesn't mean that we have to switch it off. So if it's proved that there is a difference, or its trigger or its offer works, we just leave it for 1 year at least, and then like once per year we arrange some review of our campaigns and the offers, aligned with the new pricing policies or new available content. But yeah, we are not anymore measure each campaign through the A/B testing lens, and waiting that this particular campaign will bring us the million. This is the big bucket of everything.
Got it. Yeah. That's a good context to it. Kind of moving forward, talking about something that we when we talk often about live ops, we talk about money, but the most important part is, as you mentioned in the beginning, like, the revenue comes through player engagement, and player engagement means player retention over time, and that it leads to that successful business pattern. So you wrote in your book, quoting, "Player engagement has become an aspect of the gaming industry as it significantly impacts how long and deeply players immerse themselves in games. This is not just a passing trend. Increased engagement leads to player purchases, demonstrating its power in enhancing the gaming experience." So, as we all know, like, retention is the key pillar of live ops. What are the most, this is what everybody's asking, but what's the most effective strategies for the developers to ensure that players stay engaged in their games over a longer period of time? I mean, everybody's trying to answer this. There's many magical figures in mobile. I think it's being given that D30 at 20% is the magical number. Like, once you get 20% of your players playing on the 30th day, then you're good to go. That looks like a hit. So what's kind of like, what's your take on this? Like, how do you approach retention?
By the way, thank you for this question, because when I was preparing to this podcast, I even published my post yesterday on LinkedIn with the hashtag retention. And yeah, you're right. I don't want to speculate about these 20, 30, whatever numbers, because it always depends on the game. It always depends on the way how particular studio measure this uplift compare with others events. So, and because I created some list or step-by-step guidance, if you want to boost your retention, let me just share this 10 tips that I would suggest all studios or games who want to boost their retention to use. So number one, do not mislead. So align your gameplay with what's shown in the app. Number two,
Interesting.
improve the tutorial. Make sure first time user experience is simple. Number three, hook players early. Get players excited from the very beginning of your gameplay, because gameplay is the essence of the game. So if you don't have a fun gameplay, so you don't need to move forward with other seven tips. So next, number four, set clear goals. Ensure player know what to do, how to progress, and how your leveling system works. Number five, always adjust difficulty. So constantly balance the gameplay, because sometimes, especially when you see that some cohorts of players became more skilled, you have to balance your gameplay, because otherwise for them it won't be so challenging. For us it will be very challenging. So number six, this is where data came to the stage. Fix churn points. So use data to fix and to find and fix drop off areas. Number seven, try to work with the progression. So add progression system, including leveling, upgrading, unlocks, because this gives your players the meaning to stay in your game. Number eight, it's all about the content, because you have to keep it fresh. So introducing new mechanics, and regularly release new content for the players. Rewards is very important. So number nine, make rewards valuable, not just useless, and not very appealing skills. And number 10, back to our community-driven systems, enable social features. Let players interact through clans, platoons, leaderboards, and different PvP battle modes. So yeah, these are 10 areas that I would say everybody should work if they want to boost retention in their games.
Really, really good list. I would contest one. I agree with everything, but number two is tutorial. So I've done some A/B tests, going back to it, where I've removed tutorial.
All right.
And this was from a combat PvP games, and noticed practically no changes between having a tutorial or even not having a tutorial. And I've had the similar type of experience with multiple different.
Was it mobile game or a PC console?
Yeah, mobile. Okay. Yeah, yeah. And it was just it's just an A/B test to show. Basically, it was around. The reason being for those type of tests was to show how much effort should be placed on the new tutorial, because as you know, working on tutorial or first-time user flow, as we call them, or first-time user experiences, is a lot of work, testing, et cetera. And so I wanted to have a number of like, okay, so here's what's no tutorial, here's, with the tutorial, how much better are we going to get? And that was my attempt to just just to gouge the number, and the number was practically close to zero.
All right. Okay. Very, 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 very interesting. I mean, in our case, it's the opposite. I mean,
Yeah.
because you mentioned you played wargaming titles,
Yeah.
and they are literally very, very complex, especially for newbies. When you go to Hangar, there are so many buttons and the tech trees and the regimes and elements of the interface. Literally, players get lost easily. So that's why for us, and we saw the uplift in terms of we have a couple of metrics which we use to check the onboarding process. So because World of Tanks is the heavy game, I mean you have to download it, and it's also the point where we lost players. Because sometimes you just don't have enough space on your laptop or or a PC. So that's why we have metrics during this onboarding phase, which is first login and first battle. I mean real battle, not tutorial battle. So and when we extended not extended, renewed the tutorial and included more kind of like also story driven stuff. So not just okay, take your tank, go there, go there. So we saw that the conversion from first login to the first battle with the appropriate tutorial better than even with the previous one. I'm not saying about without any tutorials. So again, I can believe that for some games, probably for mobile, I have never worked with the mobile titles, a part of World of Tanks Blitz, which is technically mobile, but back then it was literally the transition of PC World of Tanks to mobile with all of system progress system and so on. I would say is that for PC and the console games, the tutorial make this different.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. I would just say test it, and you will know what's the difference, and that will give you a certain gauge of how much you should invest into improving your Fatui, because that is a never-ending process, in my experience. So, kind of just a couple of more questions about one is like monetization without sacrificing player experience. So this is an interesting approach, because oftentimes when we talk about monetization, especially people who are not very familiar with live services or have very anti free to play attitudes, are referring to this predatory monetization tactics. And I'm going to quote you in your book. You wrote, "Engagement in gaming mirrors the dynamics of real life relationships, where ongoing positive interactions result in outcomes such as loyalty, cross-purchasing, and active selling and co-creation." So this sort of the challenge for live service games is balancing monetization with maintaining that positive player experience. How do you ensure monetization strategies the in-app or microtransactions and battle passes don't alienate your player base and cater only to the whales, while leaving the 80% of the player base outside of 80% who are never converted outside of the fun?
Yeah, good point. And balancing monetization without turning the game into pay to win is tricky. And you're right about the whales. And this is the first thing that I want to share my opinion is don't just focus on your top 1% of big spenders, the whales. Yes, they bring a lot of money, but designing the game for them can lead to pay for power stuff, and that's where things go wrong. Once the game started, the players in the game start feeling like pay to win vibe, where spending cash beats skill. you will end up losing a lot of your regular players. So it's a bad loop that's will just shrink your audience. So instead, and actually most of the big live service games in the industry do go for cosmetics reward. Think like skin, cool avatars, or customization. They let players make the game their own without giving anyone an unfair edge. So that's way, whether someone spent or not, everyone feels like they're on a level of playing field. So yes, keep it fair. Focus on the cosmetic, and you will keep players engaged without driving away those who just want to play and have fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, and it's especially because you need that broader audience for the people who pay as well to enjoy the game, because they
And
won't be
help your
enjoying if there's
help your
yeah
matchmaker.
yeah exactly. There's a reason for them to seek that status inside of the game if it's large enough. Um, I know you have to go to some, but I want to ask you like one sort of a last question. And there's the book is really excellent, and I recommend everybody to get it. We'll add a link in the description as well. Um, but like one of the things that you working as a wargaming and in wargaming and writing this book is the challenges of having these global operations, having a game that is catering for the entire world, from Japan to the U.S., from Eastern Europe to Western Europe, and like you have players all around the world. And how do you set up the operations to run live services games globally, and especially tailoring the experiences to different regions? Like you talked about the D-Day event, you have similar type of events probably in Asia, in North America, etc. And what have been the sort of the biggest challenges face in adopting these live ops strategies to meet the diverse countries or cultures and market demands?
That's right. The infamous regional relevance, how we call it.
Yeah, and let's put it this way: especially when you're doing there's both type of games. Like some of these things that might be big from our perspective are like not interesting at all for Asian audience. Like what? Like for example, we might be in other games. We might be super excited about Vikings, and if you're
Mhm.
somebody in Japan, you're like, what are you talking about? Like that.
I will, I
There's
will,
like
I will give you, I will give you examples from World of Tanks, and you will
yeah.
be surprised. I promise. So, and yeah, we definitely got caught in the trap. I mean, the trap of regional relevance when we first started. We spent we spend a lot of time recreating visual designs for different regions, or using super specific cultural visuals that couldn't work anywhere else, and it made the production process crazy, and the cost skyrocketed. Our assumption was that players would prefer regional content over global events, but that wasn't entirely right. For example, we had the 18th anniversary of Normandy landing this year,
Hmm.
a huge historical event for Europe and the US. But surprisingly, players from China were really active during that event too. On the flip side, we thought that Lunar New Year would mainly appeal to Chinese and Asia players, but everyone globally loved it. So the world, our the reality became more global,
Hmm.
and the players are into that. I'm not saying you should ignore regional moments like the 4th of July, which is huge for our NA players. But if you can make events more global with the local vibes, you can use them everywhere. Take US Independence Day, for example. We launched an event which we called Highway Rock, where players level it up for classic cars from the 60s. No US flags, no heavy regional visuals. It works because it had that local vibe US players appreciated, but was still familiar to a global audience. Of course, you've got to be careful with regional relevance during global celebration. You won't surprise anyone with the green hat for St. Patrick in the US or EU. But in China, wearing the green hat is slang for a woman cheating on her partner. So yes, definitely do not use that as a game asset. And it's all about finding that sweet spot between global and local flavors.
Yeah, so think globally, act locally. Is that the
I mean, classic.
yeah? Yeah, well, the world is eventually the world is quite globalized in many other things, but it's kind of like the understanding. And when running these global services, like, do you suggest employing like how do you keep tabs on different countries? Like, do you have sort of a country community managers, or like how do you understand what resonates to different geographies?
Yes, we have different community managers, and even in Asia, we have them more local oriented. I mean, the dedicated. I'm not saying the team, but one, two guys for Japan, for Korea, obviously for China. You know better than me that you cannot go to Chinese market without a local partner. So we have our local partner who every time guide us with these green hats and everything. So yeah, you have to incorporate this local wisdom from the people on the field, but do not hesitate to think that regional event won't be interested globally. And again, and right now it's even more important. It's all about content production. So we cannot anymore create a special regional event for each region. It's better to create one, adopt it, make it more like with local vibe, but globally recognized, and then transform into the sequel. Back to Highway Rock. So first year it was Highway Rock with the cars, then it was with the bikes. So and it was like a sequel of events. And yeah, this is like American style, but everybody will start to recognize it. So and there are so many sources of inspiration globally that you can embed it into a game. On one hand, with the right timing, you will please local audience that you do not forget them. But on the other hand, you literally educate the global audience with what's going on with their friends and the peers in other regions.
That's fantastic. Uh, yeah. Did we not cover something you wanted to cover during this? I know we have a very limited amount of time, but did we not cover something about your book that you wanted to talk specifically, or?
No, I just want to probably explain why my this book has four heroes. The players, creators, games, and platform. Because literally it's all about these four four guys, folks, and in the industry right now. So, and I see the future of live service game as a platform where players, creators, games, and the brands coexist, support each other, and generate value for everyone. Fun content for players, earnings for creators, brand awareness and promotion, and bright future for game studio. That the this kind of magic mix that makes everyone happy, including devs and their families.
Fantastic, Sergey. I want to encourage everybody to get this book for their studio. So, Running a Successful Live Service Game by Sergei Vasiuk. I mean, it's full of these very practical lists of almost like mental models that you have to dive in. And so, when you're going through your live operations, it's just it's a very practical tool that helps you to structuralize your thinking process, which is very important because oftentimes we're solving these big problems, and in live services, it's always important to break down the problems to much smaller subsets and solve those individually, one update, one push at a time. But it's hard because we think about that big problem that we have to solve right now with the next big feature. And so this type of a book is in my opinion, excellent and something that I would have liked to have about 14 years ago when I started, or 15 years ago when I started as a PM. That would have helped me tremendously. So if you're in this position, not even starting, but just anybody working at a studio, either you are in live service mode or you were thinking about building a studio or transforming to live services, I really suggest this. And Sergey, with you having 12 years of experience from LiveOps, from Wargaming, which kind of like, in many ways invented it on PC and then brought it also to consoles and mobile. I think it's a fantastic read, full of insights and full of very practical mental models to use in your day-to-day work. So thank you for writing this.
Thank you, Mishka, for kind words. And I also want to share that the Constructor of Fun probably was the first community that I joined and read it, every time when you send it. And when we met in person at Gamescom this year, and you said, "Look, let's do podcast." I mean, come on, really, this is the guy who actually came to my inbox with all of this interesting stuff around the gaming industry, proposed me to have a podcast, and it literally my first podcast. So again, thank you for inviting me to your podcast, for being here, and again, thank you for kind words.
Oh, thank you, and thank you everybody for listening. Again, link in the description. Highly recommend this book for everybody in gaming, even indie games. Just get it. So thank you everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye bye.